Welcome to my Greenville Roleplay series car collection / garage tour. I've asked if anybody wanted to see this video a year ago. So here I am today after quite a bit of planning and requests with all 8 of my vehicles, and I'm finally doing it. Alright, now that I've got all my cars here, basically, that took a long time to move, I'll be going over all of them and telling you the details. I'll be starting each of them up, then taking that for a drive, and covering things like how I got the vehicle, how long I've had it, the build plans, if/when I'll be selling it, etc. Let's get started with my all-time favorite vehicle I've had, none other than the Duramax. Alright, so let's get this thing out on the road here. Always a good time driving this truck, has been and continues to be my favorite vehicle. I've had this thing for years, about 06 LBZ Duramax, Allison 6-speed transmission, crew cab, 4-wheel drive, all the good stuff. It's an extremely clean example, no rust, dents, nothing really. Purchased this truck from the original owner back in the day with very low miles, even for the time. Now it's up to about 66,000 miles. This truck spends the majority of its time in the garage being kept in pretty good condition. Usually don't use it too often in the winter. Out of everything I own though, I'll tell you what, you can hit any of my vehicles, drive them off a cliff, even my Corvette, and I really wouldn't care too much, but if you even look at this truck wrong then. So anyways, you may be able to tell this thing is kind of the prized possession of the garage. I've had many vehicles throughout the time I've owned this truck as well, and I don't have plans to ever sell it. As for the build plans, I'm not 100% sure. I'm just going to be keeping this truck fairly similar to how it is now. However, I'd like to change out the wheels, probably to aftermarkets. Just waiting for the right ones to cross my path, then I'll scoop them up and toss them on. Besides that, I've been considering a wrap. Got a few colors in mind, but nothing's really set in stone yet. No real rush for any mods, so yeah, that covers the Duramax. Second vehicle to talk about is my most expensive vehicle purchase ever, I believe, my C7 Z06 Corvette. Taking the vet for a spin, something I don't do often enough. Man, I need to start taking this thing out more. Only problem is I have too many vehicles to drive, which this video is actually going to help a bit with, that I'll talk a bit more about later. But anyway, back to the Corvette. This is a 2018 C7 Z06, 7-speed manual, Z07 pack, etc. I bought this thing right at the beginning of the year for quite a bit of money. Now though, this thing's worth even more than it was at the beginning of this year. A fair bit more actually, which brings me to a tough decision. This is the car that I am the most undecided on selling / keeping out of all the vehicles in the entire fleet. Here's my predicament. The only car I'm considering trading / selling this car for, a C8 Z06. The starting MSRP of that car is slated to begin somewhere below $90,000, and what you get for that, it's pretty tempting. What's even more tempting is that I could spec out a base of the base C8 Z06, and if I could get it for MSRP, I could sell the C7 for more than what I paid for it in this market, and could come fairly close to breaking even on the C8. I want the C8, it makes a lot of sense, but I'm also not really sure if I want to get rid of the C7 yet. It's genuinely a tough choice, and it's funny because it's a video game, but I'm not even actually decided yet. I don't even know. Both cars are awesome. I've enjoyed the C7 for a year. Maybe it's time to change it up, but who knows. C8 Z06s probably won't be arriving for a bit anyways, so we'll see, I guess. Now, if I do keep the C7, I have some plans. Definitely would want some wheels, have a couple good ideas for wrap colors, and possibly I'll throw some more power and aero parts at it and see what it can do. Third up, we've got my Squarebody Chevy, a true classic dating all the way back to 1984. Driving the Squarebody, always a unique experience, especially with how slow this thing is. Here's full throttle. Goes 0 to 60 in about 20 seconds or something like that, but I actually quite enjoy it, believe it or not. Definitely able to have a bit more fun than you usually would in a truck like this when you get to Florida all the time. Heck, I drive this thing more radically than my Z06 any day. For real though, I sort of drive my Z06 like a grandpa. So, for how I bought this truck, I don't remember it too well if I'm being honest with you. It was well over a year ago before the RPs were documented as a part of the video series back in GB3. Solely bought this thing because it was too cool to pass up. 84, manual, mostly original Squarebody. Never had a true classic truck before, and at the time I didn't own the unnecessary amount of vehicles I do now, so I figured why the heck not. I drove it around and had fun for it with a bit, and then once it was time to move houses a little over a year ago, I shoved it into the warehouse and it sat there for half a year. Got it back and it's just as cool as I left it, but with that being said, I got some ideas to make it even cooler. Without giving away too much, I might turn this thing into some sort of cool classic workhorse kind of truck. No plans to sell it anytime soon, really enjoying it still, and I'm excited for what's to come on it. Next up is my 2005 Suburban, the ultimate daily driver, which I haven't really daily driven, ever. Wow, first time driving my daily driver in like over half a year or something, besides when I started it up the other day. Things been having some issues lately. There's something going on in the engine, doesn't sound good at all, and it isn't going away. It's just a typical 05 Suburban half-ton pretty much. Got a 5.3, not really anything special. Probably the most basic vehicle I have for now. Fairly unique color though, Victory Red it appears. Might have been repainted at some point. Bought it just over a year ago now for $8 grand. Seeming to be a family hauler for some time. Not especially perfect condition, just average, I guess. Got about 172,000 miles on it now. I initially advertised this truck to be the ultimate daily driver build. Unfortunately, a year later, I have not touched this truck. In fact, I let it sit for the vast majority of the time I owned it, and that was mainly due to the fact that right after I bought this truck, winter hit. Right after I bought this truck, I also bought a winter beater to drive around through the winter, and then I bought another one. Through the winter, I was busy with other stuff, driving the winter beater around, and then right when winter was ending, I bought the Z06, and I started driving the other stuff I had parked through the winter. So this thing just sat on the back burner, but don't let that fool you into thinking I've forgotten about it and that the build will never happen. It will. I think. By the time this thing is done, it'll pretty much be one of one, and ideally, I will actually daily drive it. Ish. Still excited for the build on this thing, just need to get some things to line up for it first, then the build will begin. No plans to sell this truck anytime soon. Next up, we've got my 01 Silverado 1500, the trusty truck I've had for quite some time now. Back in the 01, been a bit. Always pretty fun to drive this thing, sort of been my backup truck, always there when I needed it. Served as my daily on and off for about 2 years now, which brings me to how I got this thing. The reason I got this truck is probably the most logical reason out of all the vehicles I have. Very much multi-purpose, I guess. At the time right before I got this thing, my old winter beater broke, completely done for, and I sold my 24-valve 2nd gen Ram, my daily driver slash work truck at the time. I only had a Duramax when winter was approaching, and I wasn't about to use the Duramax as my winter beater, so the hunt began for a new winter beater slash daily slash fun slash project slash work truck. And that's when I stumbled upon this thing. A 2001 single cab short bed Silverado 1500, 4.8 liter V8, and best of all, a rare 5-speed manual transmission. The 5-speed trucks themselves are already quite rare, but paired with a V8 is pretty much ultra rare. Most 5-speed trucks are V6s. By no means is this truck really mint condition, got some rust on the rockers, some door dings, pretty much just typical wear and tear, and that's why I was initially going to use it as my winter beater. However, after driving it for a while, I sort of realized that since this truck is so rare, and it really wasn't in all of that horrible condition, I never beat it up that much. I did use it through winter though, and it served as my daily up until I got my LMM Duramax, the 2010 Sierra. Once I moved houses, sold the LMM, and put the Squarebody and LBZ in storage, the 01 returned as my main truck and stayed as my daily driver once again up until I bought the Suburban, Then I didn't actually daily drive the Suburban, but that's besides the point. Ever since then, it's just been sitting around being driven every once in a while. Still enjoy it though. As for what the future holds for it, I think I'll be putting the truck in storage along with the Squarebody, just to get them out of the way for a while so I can focus on getting other projects done. The thought of selling this truck has crossed my mind, but after all I've been through with it and for how long I've had it, I'm not really sure I'm ready to let it go just yet. I've not done a single thing to this truck, but I've got some ideas for sure. Actually, a couple different directions I can go with it, but I'm not really in any rush to do so. Now to the infamous V6 Silverado winter beater. Quite a lot of interesting memories with this one. Boy, oh boy, have I done a lot of stuff with this truck. Many dents, many times it's been brought to redline, many burnouts, just about everything. Bought this truck almost a year ago for just $1,250. Money well spent, money well spent. Thing's an 06 1500 work truck, base of the base model, crank windows and all. Part of being a base of the base model means it's also got the rare 5-speed manual, however in this case paired with a V6. The story of this truck is actually quite interesting. I found this truck in the local repo lot, which I happened to be visiting for reasons. I'll get into that later, but I was there, and when I saw this truck just sitting there, it caught my eye. I was looking for a new winter beater, and when I saw the 5-speed, I was sold. What I didn't know though was at the time, the truck had been sitting there for 12 straight years. It was repoed back when it was practically new. Used to be a company truck, but they got behind on payments. Due to it being repoed so early in its life, this thing only had 60,000 miles on it at the time, but obviously that's gone up by now. Since I got the truck, I put these new Silverado SS replica wheels on it, and that's basically all. That's also all I plan to ever modify on this truck, and that's because it's going away soon. The truck won't be sold, but the end of it's near. I've had a lot of fun times with this thing, but it was never meant to be a forever truck. Definitely stay tuned for what I've got planned for the old V6. And on to literally the only non-Chevy product I have right now, my Mustang. Kind of funny. Oh man, the Mustang. Here we go. I can't believe I still have a Ford. Funny enough, this seems to be the car most people seem to talk about out of all my cars, specifically when it got impounded. I bought this car in December of last year and it got immediately impounded. It's a 1999 New Edge Mustang V6, very beat up. The guy I bought it from definitely had some stories.
As you can see, there's quite a few dents in it, therefore I hit many crowds, and
seems to be only running on 3 cylinders.
No, that was a joke. It runs on 5.5. I had to replace the wheels because the original Mustang wheels got rusted because the dog kept taking a pee on them.
Asked me for slightly more than I was willing to pay. So how much money are you asking for this thing again?
$300,000. Take it or leave it.
And he was later arrested. When I bought the car, I never received a title and I got pulled over the next day, which ended up in the car being impounded. That's why I was at the impound lot and found the V6 Silverado. The reason I was looking for a new beater at the time, which ended up being the Silverado, was because I realized the Mustang really wasn't in all that horrible of condition, just needs body work. A lot of it. So, I decided I'd be restoring the car, but I haven't really started on that yet, as I was waiting to make this video before I did it, and this video just kept getting pushed off. But now it's finally going to be time to start the Mustang build. I've got quite a bit more up my sleeve than just restoring it, but the restoration will be the first part. Once this thing is done, it'll be fairly unique, for sure one of the cooler Mustangs around here. May include a little bit more power due to one thing or another. Got a bit embarrassed being gapped by a Honda Civic. Twice. As for how long I'll be keeping this thing, probably up until the build is finished. Sort of wanting the spot in my garage to be changing with new project cars fairly often. Got a few ideas of what to get after the Mustang's done. And finally moving on to my 1992 Chevy C1500. Time to take the final vehicle out for a drive. Nothing has been modified on this truck. It's completely stock, even on original wheels, and I plan to keep it that way for the time I have it. The truck is going to be sold very soon. In fact, it'll probably be listed right around when this video drops. Here's some details on it. It's a 1992 Chevy C1500, so 2-wheel drive, 350 small block, single cab long bed automatic. I bought this truck over a year ago now in late October of last year for only $500, and this is a very clean truck as well. It only has 86,000 miles on it with only 2 owners including me, no rust anywhere. Pretty much an immaculate truck. It was used mostly for camping trips, so mainly highway miles. Immediately got it sent to a detailer when I got it. Then once it was back to my house, it stayed there ever since for the most part, though I got it sent out to Toys for Trucks for some replacement headlights and taillights. No longer are they fogged up and they're pretty bright too. Headlights got LED replacement bulbs. I initially bought this truck to sell for a profit, but I held on to it for a little while, and in that time, not only has the entire market for used cars exploded, the market for these clean OBS Chevys has gone up, especially in specific. Because of that, I'm asking $17,500 for this truck. Yep. Is it worth it? Probably not, but that's where the market is. Even though I bought this with the intentions of selling it and didn't drive it very many times, the last time I drove it, I quite enjoyed it. Super nice cruiser, and I hope the next owner enjoys it as well. Maybe I'll buy another OBS someday. And with that, the garage tour is complete. Maybe I'll do another one of these in the future once the collection changes up a bit, or possibly even just one with my entire garage in game, out of roleplay. If you want, let me know your favorite vehicle I've got down below. I'm definitely excited for what the future has to hold for my entire fleet, and I hope you've all enjoyed. That was every vehicle I own in the GVRP series, well, except for my S10, but that truck is a story for another day.